anyone who opposes or curses Abraham, God would curse and oppose that person. But now let's see. Did Abraham initially, when God called Abraham and when he entered the promised land, that was the promised land to be, did he demonstrate now mature faith in God in every circumstance? Did he?
No.
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 Tell me so.
No.
Tell me, talk with me. What? How you know
when
that?
they came upon this little country, he told the king, well, that ain't my wife, that's my fool.
All right, so
true.
his faith lapsed there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, what kind of faith, if you would review Abraham's faith right now in God, what kind of faith will you categorize him as? I'm going to give you three. I'm going to give you three. No. I'm going to give you three. There is, if you read the Bible and you look at it with insight, there is what we call a resting faith, a sucking faith, and a wrestling faith. What faith did Abraham demonstrate nearly until later on after his sucking faith? Good. A sucking faith. If you note, Abraham anticipated God in all the situations that were surrounded him other than in what God intended. God intended that Abraham would have a son from Sarah. Abraham anticipated Lot would bring that son, and he would claim Lot's son. Now, I want you to know something about Lot in God and his plan. Every person or thing that Abraham held to be valuable for him so God could do the work through that, God would take it out of his way. Time they came out of the land where you were talking about when he lost faith and faith collapsed. Coming out, they both had a lot of cattle, sheep, land they said could not contain, which was both, at least it could. I believe Lot was kind of undermining the situation. Lot's herdsmen, Abraham's herdsmen began to fight. Note how meek Abraham was. He said, the land is before us. You go east, I go west. So let us not fight. Something in that chapter 13 is unique. It says, now the Amorites were there. Think about that. Or A-type Amorites. Because here were God's men fighting among unbelievers. Fighting among unbelievers. Then when time lot leave, now here's what I want you to see in this plan. God spoke again to Abraham and said, your descendant. So there's a process of eliminating. Now Abraham's faith began to grow as he said, well, I thought my descendant would come from Lot because Abraham could have claimed Lot's son because Lot was a part of his household, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Well, God separated. Now Abraham began to wonder again. Notice he gets in fear again as God appears to him and says to him, count the stars, look at the sand of the sea, so will your descendant. Well, if they're not coming. And Abraham says to him, God, the only heir of my house is Elizabeth, who's my slave. Now, what Abraham had in mind, that's how God will give me a descendant. But God had to say to him, he will not come from Elizabeth. Definitely not coming from that. And if you notice again, God spoke to him and encouraged him. Now, shortly kings of Sodom and Gomorrah. They went out to war with the other kings, surrounding kings, and God allowed Lot to go into captivity. Abraham takes his 400 servants, pursues them, and brings Lot back. And then, because Abraham was fearful of the surrounding people, God again appeals to him and reassures him, you my man, you're going to have a descendant. And he began to talk and say, hey, etc., this person will bring God. Said, no, not that. If you know something, God never did say until the last moment that child would come from Sarah. Abraham should have understood that. And you remember, after they had gone into Egypt, his faith collapsed, gone into Egypt, they get a lady called Hagar. And Sarah planned to have God faithful. She gives her his maid to be his wife. So they conceive. Ishmael becomes the heart of Abraham. Becomes the heart of Abraham. But you notice, it didn't work. Yep. Sarah jumps on her, beats her up right in her house. That's the language there. Sarah beats her up. Good. Gave her a good whipping because she began to despise Sarah. Said, who wants an old woman like you? I mean, you know, beautiful. No. But you know, Pastor, what strikes me, now, have you ever thought about this? And this is in God's plan too. Sarah was about 65 when God called her, because Abraham was about 75, right? Yes, sir. The thing, Sister Nell, that kind of makes me puzzle. I'm reading Genesis again, and I puzzle at this story. Here's a lady 65 years old, but very beautiful. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes I think was age the same as age today. You know, was age the same as age today. I know it wasn't doing because Noah and those people live much longer than him. But I wonder sometimes with the calendar years, sometimes I think you think too. But here's what I want you to say. 65 years old woman, very attractive to men. But she knew she was barren. But those other emperors wanted her. Yeah. Now, think critically with me as we go through this. After the fight, after Abram brings back Lot, let him go wherever he wants to go, then he gives a tithe to Melchizedek. If Melchizedek is the pre-incarnate Christ, why would Melchizedek accept a tithe? That's why I know tithes belong to God. That's why I know tithes in this dispensation too, because tithes did not originate. A tithe, 10%, did not originate under the law. It originates before law. Now, let's look at this. Time Lot left, Abraham began to be fearful. God appeals to him again and says, you will be the father of many nations. Now Ishmael born, he thinks that the nation will come there, and God specifically said it will not come through Ishmael. I will bless Ishmael. He will be the father of 12 princes. But the blessing is coming from Sarah. He was specific. And oh wow, Abraham falls on his face and worships God. Now, I've overlooked the covenant relationship. I've overlooked that. We didn't talk about that. Prior to that, God had made a covenant plan to him. But if you know something here, Abraham's faith then begins to grow. After the fight of Sodom and Gomorrah and the destruction of